Hey friends, welcome back to Chat with Matt, Conversations That Count, where we talk real life, real money, and real strategies. Today's episode is brought to you by Casa de Confidence Productions. Julie and Dan Collins are a powerhouse team that help podcasters like myself look and sound better every single day. If you've ever been curious about podcasting, I encourage you to visit their website at casadeconfidence.website to learn more and connect with them. Now let's get into the show. If you have not listened to my last two episodes, please go back and listen to them. We are in the midst of a series I'm doing talking about the 5 F's of caretaking, which was really born from having some time to slow down and reflect during my mom's hospitalization the week before Christmas. And I just realized that I wanted to share more of my experience. I wanted to talk more about caretaking. I wanted to give people hope and let people know they're not alone. And so this episode is episode 2 of the 5 F's, which is all about family. So if you haven't listened to the introductory episode or the first episode on faith, I encourage you to go back and listen to those because some of this is building on previous episodes. You know, caretaking exposes absolutely everything, especially who shows up. This week that my mom was in the hospital reminded me that family isn't about blood alone. It's about presence. And you don't have to be physically in a room to be present and to make a difference. And that really matters. I'm going to start off by, of course, talking about my money tip of the week, which is lack of planning causes family conflict. Nearly 70% of families experience tension during medical crises due to unclear financial or care roles. It is important that you're having conversations about the future before it gets here. What if this happened? What if caretaking was necessary? Who would have which roles? Where is the money? How are things set up so that your person, when the time comes, can be taken care of in the best way possible? And most importantly, if possible, according to their wishes. And there's a lot that goes into that. We'll talk about more of that in this episode, but it's so important to have those conversations now to relieve the stress and the weight of them in the future when you're facing a medical crisis and you have so much else that you're carrying. The first section of today's episode I want to talk about is immediate family stepping into action. Here's the thing, that doesn't always happen. Some of us have become the caregivers either by choice or by necessity. Hopefully by choice, but I know the truth is that's not always the way that it works out. And in stepping into that caregiver role, other family members may not take on roles that you thought they would or that you think they should. And there's navigating that can be heavy and hard because in a crisis, family roles shift fast and it's not always a smooth process. Someone becomes the medical decision maker. Someone handles logistics. Someone becomes the emotional support. And often one person becomes everything. Now, in my story, that's not the case. I have an older brother, and he and his family all live in Utah, which is where my parents were living when we found out they couldn't take care of themselves anymore. I had always said I wanted to be their caretaker when the time came. Now, I live in North Texas, 1,200 miles away from where my parents lived, which meant that I would be bringing my parents to live with me in Texas. Now, my brother, I've been in Texas for 20 years now, and my brother, his wife, they have been amazing at checking in on my parents, especially during those COVID years, y'all know. And this was going to mean me bringing my parents to Texas was going to be a big change for him. They weren't going to be just down the street anymore. His role was significantly changing in letting go of that, not that he hands-on care took, but that ability to stop by, to check on them. What had always been the norm for him was significantly going to change. And we had to have a lot of conversations about that leading up to the point where we found out something needed to happen. And even once we found out. And the truth is, my brother and sister-in-law both still work full time. They have a busy growing family with grandchildren. And I don't know that either one of them are wired to be a caretaker. And I don't say that with any disrespect. If you have listened to me for any amount of time, when I talk about caregiving, you have heard me say not everyone is wired to be a caretaker. And if you have a choice and you don't desire to caretake for somebody, use your voice and advocate for yourself, because it's better for you and for the loved one that needs the care than you stepping into a role that you don't want, that you're resentful about. And again, that's not always a choice. Sometimes it happens out of necessity. But if you have that ability, you need to speak for who you are and what you know you can do before you create a situation that just becomes 10 times harder than it already is for everybody involved. And through these conversations, my brother was like, okay, I get it. I see what you're saying. And I had worked to build my business, my financial services business, so that I had the freedom to adjust my schedule and work from home. I retired myself from corporate America. I had really built my environment and my life around taking care of my parents someday. And so initially the idea was they would come to Texas for a year. Now they've been here 3.5 years, and we're navigating some new things, some decline with my mom's care. But my brother is my safe space. He calls multiple times a week to talk to my parents so they can hear his voice. He calls just to talk to me one-on-one and find out how I'm doing, what's going on. And I keep him up to speed on what we're spending money on, what's the new diagnoses, new medications, what happened at the last doctor's appointment. And that's my place to go. Maybe you could call him my security blanket a little bit. He would tell you that he doesn't feel like he's carrying anywhere near the weight he wishes he could. But that's a circumstantial situation. And what I will say is he's carrying the weight of exactly what I need for him to carry. My place to go to when I'm frustrated, when it's been a hard day, when things are shifting and changing, all of that. It's a game changer for me to have my brother willingly be that person. And he knows when to just listen. And he has a way of speaking into me to remind me to advocate for myself, to advocate for my mom. And that was something he did really big for me the week my mom was in the hospital and I was facing all the things people were telling me we should do. This needs to happen. That needs to happen. Talk to these people. And I was going through those processes and none of it felt right. And in a conversation with my brother, he reminded me, you know mom best and you know yourself best. What do you think makes sense? And not that I need permission from him or anybody else to do what I feel like is best for myself and my mom, but I did need the reminder in that moment. Absolutely. And so if you have that, it is amazing. It is wonderful. If you have family close by that come and help, come and give you a reprieve, that is amazing. There are many, 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 many caretakers who have no support whatsoever from immediate family. My heart, maybe because there isn't immediate family close by or at all, maybe it's because they've stepped back. And I'm not here to judge where anybody comes at caretaking from. There could be a lot of reasons behind that. At the end of the day, though, community is still important. And so you've got to find those ways, those places in community where you have that reprieve, whether it's hiring somebody to come in just a few hours here and there and give you the chance to get away, whether it is support groups. If there is so much even available, I imagine there are caretakers that are in smaller towns or smaller cities that maybe don't have some of the resources I have here in the DFW area. But there's a lot available online. I have found so much value in somebody that I follow online that is so many years ahead of me in the journey of caretaking, but shares so openly about that journey and what she's learned along the way that it has been a game changer for me. And so you can find that sometimes you just have to work a little harder for it. But it's so important that you remember that you need it. According to AARP, over 53 million Americans are unpaid caregivers, and more than 60% report feeling unprepared when the role begins. Because what's going to prepare you? Right? You haven't done this before. You maybe don't even know anybody who's gone through this before. I'm going to challenge you to talk about the fact that you have a caregiving role. I was blown away when I stepped into this role to find out how many people in my circle of connections have been, currently are, or are planning to be a caretaker for a loved one at some point in the future, which tells me it's not talked about enough, which is partly why I'm doing this series. And one of my big focuses is in 2026 is using my voice more to talk about caretaking, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I hope that through doing that, I can bless somebody like the people who I follow have blessed me by sharing my story. And every story is different. Nearly 1 in 3 caregivers report family conflict related to decision-making, finances, and expectations. Y'all, these conversations are some of the hardest conversations you will have in your entire life. Nobody wants to think about death. Nobody wants to think about being in a care facility. Nobody wants to think that life could change, everything could flip on a dime, and suddenly somebody needs to be taken care of. But it's a reality. It happens every single day. And so while we are unprepared, there's so many resources to help you learn, grow. Don't be afraid to use your voice, ask questions, demand answers. I have had to do that in doctor's appointments when they just throw information at me and I'm like, but why? I need to understand why you're asking me to do A, B, or C, or why it's necessary for this thing or that thing or the other to come into play. Use your voice to get the information and education that you need. Follow people, get books, go on YouTube. Oh my gosh, there's so many great people on YouTube that share information about caretaking, about different medical diagnoses, things like that. And again, I said these conversations are difficult. They are, and that's why you want to have them before you're in the middle of a medical emergency, a medical crisis, a significant change in somebody's health, somebody's needs, because you have enough to carry when that time comes. If you've had the conversations, if the finances are set up, and if you don't have somebody to help with that, reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation with you. If there's something through what I do that I can help you with, I will gladly do it. And if there is a resource you need, I promise you, I have those resources I can connect you to. And if you have one I haven't come across before, I will find the resource you need for you. Okay? But have those conversations, because caretaking doesn't wait for readiness. It demands response right now in this minute. You've got to make a decision. You've got to shift. You've got to change. You've got to move. Okay. Share how you feel about the role that is potentially yours in the future or right now. And talk to your family members about the roles they see themselves playing. Put together a framework. Everybody should have a job. Coming out of the hospital, I shifted roles in my household. I realized with extreme clarity that my voice is the voice my mom best responds to. And I had to tell my dad and my boyfriend, Chris, who lives with us both, when I'm working with mom in a situation, whatever's going on, my voice needs to be the only voice she hears. Now, my mom has dementia. If you're listening to this and you haven't heard my story before, my mom has dementia, vascular dementia, and she is still somewhat ambulatory and somewhat able to do certain things for herself. However, there are some of the activities of daily living that she needs support and help with. So I had to explain to them, look, when mom hears more than one voice in the middle of her being frustrated or confused, it creates more confusion, more frustration, and it makes my job taking care of her or navigating her through it 10 times harder. So my dad's role is to just be her husband, to be her soft place, to hold her hand, to just be there for her. And for my boyfriend, his role is to be my dad's friend, to help distract my dad, to take him out in the backyard to hit golf balls, to go out on the patio and shoot his slingshot, to even just suggest, hey, we've got some errands to run. Do you want to go to the store? Whatever that might be. But those roles are so important. And I already talked a little bit about how mine and my brother's roles came to be. And that's important. It's important to know ahead, this is who's going to do this and this is who's going to do that. And that's not to say it can't change, it can't shift. Life may not support certain things that you planned on when you get there, but it's going to go a long way into making things easier when the time comes. And I want you guys to please, please, please understand, confusion does not mean failure. It means transition. When you are shifting this big in your family to care for a loved one, it is a huge transition, and it can be overwhelming, confusing, frustrating, maddening. Okay. But that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're in transition. Give yourself some grace. Give the people around you, your family members, some grace as you guys figure out how you're going to move forward. All right. The second section of this episode is about chosen family and the emotional and logistical gaps that they can help fill. Blood family may handle the decisions, but chosen family often shows up to help carry the weight by sending meals, a text message, sitting quietly with you, helping with errands, and most importantly, sending prayers. I am always open to prayers, to bless my home, to bless my mom, to bless myself, to bless my dad as he's watching the love of his life slowly disappear. These acts are not small. They are stabilizing. And that's why I talked about how important community is. That if you don't have it around you already, you find ways to create it, even if it's virtual. There are so many things you can lean into that just sometimes give you information that allows you to breathe, to feel like you're doing okay, to give yourself more grace in a really difficult process. Studies show caregivers with a strong social support group are 40 to 50% less likely to experience severe burnout. That emotional support is strongly correlated with caregiver resilience. The emotional support is more strongly correlated with caregiver resilience, let me clarify, than financial support alone. Like somebody could be handling the money or sending the money or whatever, and that resolves one piece of the pie. And in some ways, maybe one of the biggest pieces, depending on what you're dealing with. But knowing that you have that emotional support around you can make, if you're struggling with the financial or any other area, a little bit lighter because you have that place to go. You have that person to lean on. You have somebody that can just listen to you. Chosen family doesn't ask for a role. They see the need and they step in. And let me give you an example. The week my mom was in the hospital, as soon as I let people know, hey, I've got to step back from some things in my business the last couple weeks of this year. My mom's in the hospital. It was the week before Christmas, y'all. Christmas is coming, then New Year's, all of the things, right? I had people texting me, praying for me, sending meals to the hospital for my dad and I. One of my sweet friends, later in the week when things were a little more settled, I came home to take care of something with a client and just get out of the hospital for a little bit. One of my sweet friends dropped by, a bag full of all different kinds of snacks for me to take to the hospital. So we had things that we could just munch on while we were sitting there, because my dad and I were there 12 to 14 hours a day. right? So it's all of those things. They saw a need and they stepped in. And I am so grateful for my community, the people that see me, the people who've walked this path and understand it. They especially are the ones that immediately move into action because they've been there and they know exactly what it meant to have that support when they were going through the journey. Okay, y'all, it is imperative. This is section 3 we're getting into, that you stop trying to be the hero. A lot of caretakers think if I don't do it, it won't get done right. And let me tell you, I am stubborn. I am independent. I was born that way. And my path through life just confirmed it over and over and over. And so I am maybe even at times dangerously independent. And I say that in the sense of I don't ask for help immediately when I know I need it. I ask for help typically when I'm at a breaking point. This mindset might feel responsible, right? For me, it's just natural for me to just figure it out. I always have, but it is unsustainable. It is absolutely unsustainable as a caretaker to carry the weight and do everything. Y'all, martyrdom is not leadership. Martyrdom is not the answer here. Caregivers who do not delegate are 2 times more likely to experience depression and anxiety. And delegating can be as simple as, hey, can you run this errand for me? Or could you pick up this thing? Or, hey, could you come sit with mom or with my mom if you're talking to a friend? I need to get away. For me, oh my gosh, the blessing that my boyfriend Chris has been. This last year, I traveled more for work, having my own business, than I have in 7 years. And he fills in the gap. Yes, he lives here, but he could just live here and be a great partner and be a great family member to my parents, right? But he takes on that role and fills in the gaps so that I can go do the things that I need to do, that I want to do, that help build my business and move us towards the life that we are creating. Okay. So having the ability to hands off this last year was key for me. I had the biggest year I've ever had in my business. And that's not just because of me. That's because of my team in the business. It's because of my leadership in the business. It's because of my boyfriend here at home, my dad here at home. All of it. It all is the foundation to me reaching what I did in 2025. Now, with this shift with my mom's health, I'm stepping back. We have a huge conference next week in Arizona, and I want to be there so bad, but I know my mom needs me, and it's time for me to prioritize her and her care and my family and step back from some of the travel for a little while. And that will shift and that will change as we move forward. But I was stuck in this place of thinking about it nonstop while my mom was in the hospital. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because I was looking at flights to get my ticket there to go there. And I thought, if I am thinking about this hard, if I'm trying to convince myself of how I can make it happen, then I probably shouldn't go. And since being home, we have transitioned some things. I've shifted my work schedule a little bit. I haven't had to do a lot. That's a blessing. But we've had enough moments that only I've been able to navigate my mom through that I realize right now I can't be gone overnight very easily. Right now, I feel like it all. Hopefully in the future, we'll be able to navigate where I could, do some maybe 1 or 2 day things. We'll see what comes. But that's part of this too, is you put some of the things on your life on hold when you're stepping up to serve a loved one and caretake for somebody. Being the hero can feel noble. Like, I got this, I'm taking care of it, everything's going good. But quietly behind the scenes, inside of yourself, is building and building. And if you're not careful, it can end up costing you everything. Chronic stress in caregivers increases the risk of heart disease by 23%. And overall, it weakens our immune function. It is imperative that you're paying attention to yourself, that you are prioritizing you. Yes, they are the number one priority as far as the things that you're doing, but you have still got to prioritize yourself, your health, your mindset, and your emotional state so that you can prioritize them with the care that you're giving, with the tasks that you're doing. Delegation to other people, asking for help, is absolutely not weakness. It is stewardship. And it is so important. And I could beat this dead horse for hours, but I'm going to leave it there for now. If you are looking for ways to find resources or people or things that you can delegate to, please, there are so many great resources. I will tell you one is if you're dealing with memory care like I am, the Alzheimer's Association, their website is, oh my gosh, a lifesaver. They have care groups you can connect with and they're free. They have resources. Ask your loved one's doctor. If they're on Medicare, there are a lot of resources through Medicare, home health, and things like that. And then you can always hire private care if financially you have the ability to do that to fill in some of the gaps as well. So the next thing I want to talk about is some real life stuff. Okay. Meals, sitting with my mom, emotional support, things like that. The way that friends and people have done that. We haven't had to actually use a lot of that with my mom because she stayed pretty steady. Her memory diminished slowly over the last three and a half years, but physically wise, she stayed pretty steady until recently. And so now I'm facing more of this, but I have a good friend who's been a caretaker and she's like, if you need me to come sit with your mom or sit with your parents, just let me know. I got you. Right. So that's something I may need more support with as time goes by. And we're adjusting kind of to the schedule of our new norm, but what does it really look like long term? I mean, it's been 3 or 4 weeks. We don't really know yet. So we're still on our way to that. But the meals we got when she was in the hospital, a lifesaver. And because my boyfriend's in the home, honestly, he does the majority of the cooking for dinner. And that's a lifesaver for me. It means that I can still plug into my business and do some of the things that I need to do to keep my bills paid in this process, right? And then I talked about my brother with emotional support, but I have such a community. This is why I said, if you are stepping into caretaking, talk about it. Because more people than you think in your circle have been in this role, have experienced it, know somebody who has. They can help make connections for you. They can be support for you. That emotional support, I can call any number of a dozen or 2 people at the drop of a hat who will know exactly what I'm feeling in any given moment. And they can just hold space for me throughout that struggle that I'm facing. Or even a celebration of something that's going well in the caretaking process. The moments that people step in and do these things for you, they're not just filler. They're literally lifelines. Lean on them. Ask for help. Use your freaking voice. I know you're probably thinking, I don't want to overwhelm people. I don't want to take advantage of anyone. I don't want people to step back from a relation with me because I'm asking for them for their help or for a meal or for a conversation. If anybody steps back from you, they're not your people. There are new people who have come into my life in caretaking. I don't know that I can say I've had people really step back from me at all. I don't think that's existed for me. So I'm very blessed in that fact. However, I know a lot of caretakers who have experienced that. But the truth is, they're not your people. And that's why community is important. So you can find the new people who can step in and do that. And when you talk to somebody who offers help, ask them what they think that help looks like. and utilize them within that realm of what they tell you that looks like, because that's probably their capacity, their availability to do things, to support you. But it doesn't mean that they don't want to help. Just ask them what kind of help that they think they can offer. What does that look like for them? And then fit that into what's going on for you. And that can help to relieve that concern of, I've asked too much, I've overstepped. Right? Care doesn't always look productive. Sometimes it looks like sitting in silence. Holy smokes, y'all. So many times I'll go sit on the patio, I'll go through a moment with my mom, or just even navigating her schedule and her needs throughout the day. And I'll just go sit in silence on the patio and have some time to myself. And during some of those times, my mind is racing on if we're facing something, a struggle right now, or things feel overwhelming. But it's time for me to get outside, breathe some real fresh air, and just sit for a few minutes. And so then I can gather my strength and get back at it. And other times it's looking at, hey, I could do this different, or, oh, I wonder if mom would like this, right? It's coming up with new ideas and new ways to push forward and implement things that may be beneficial to my mom or to both of us. Caregivers who receive practical help report higher emotional regulation and better decision making during a crisis. If you know that you have that support, if you've got people reaching out to you, you can take a breath and check those things off your list and deal with the most immediate things that need attention. And that relieves a lot of stress, a lot of emotional overload, even small acts that people can do to help you reduce stress and hormones. When the first night my mom was in the hospital, and I think I talked a little bit about this last week, we had to request soft restraints for my mom because she is strong, which is a testament to my caretaking that she's pretty healthy and strong. I was told by several people, but also can make things really difficult. She kept trying to get out of bed, which she was hooked up to machines and an IV, so she couldn't do that. She pulled her IV out, all the things. And so I had to request soft restraints. And there was one point at 3:00 in the morning when we'd both been up for almost 24 hours that I had to physically hold my mom's arms down as she was struggling to bite the mittens. So soft restraints were, in this case, it was just mittens on her hands. And so I was having to hold her hands down because she was trying to bite them off. And she looked at me with tear-filled eyes and begged me to take them off of her. And I had to tell her no. And I stood there with tears running down my face, leaning on my faith and praying over her. And then came the moment. So this is where I said I don't ask for help until I'm at my wit's end, and I'm working on that. But I hit the nurse's button and I said, can somebody come relieve me for a few minutes? And I stepped out of my mom's room for about 15 minutes, gathered myself, talked to my niece who helped me navigate through the emotions I was having at the time. What a blessing. And she's a nurse in Utah. So this is like 3:00 in the morning, my time, 2:00 in the morning, her time. And the blessing is that she works nights and she was on shift. So she had been messaging me to check on how things were going. And so I knew I could reach out to her. But when I walked back in the room and the nurse got up to leave, a young man walked in the room and he was a hospital sitter. And he sat down and I'm like, maybe he can help calm mom. And what he did was help calm me by telling me, I've got your mom. She's okay. You need to go somewhere and sleep. For me, that was a lifeline right then. Now, I asked for the nurse just to come relieve me for a few minutes, but what they did was brought somebody in that could regulate me and my emotions through a really difficult 24 hours. The people who have stepped up, who have saved me in ways through this process, they weren't fixing anything. They were holding space for me. They were offering a service to me. They were lifting me up. They were sending me prayers. I'm going to challenge those of you who are caretakers, who are maybe like, but this, but that, but the other when it comes to asking for help. I'm going to encourage you to not just ask for help, but receive it without apology. Don't apologize that you need to ask a friend or a loved one to run an errand for you or to sit with the person you're caretaking for. Don't apologize for asking for help. You shouldn't have to. Just don't do it. That's my last word on that. Just don't do it. Don't apologize for it. Ask for what you need. If people can do it, great. If not, okay. And you find somebody else. And then lastly, I want to talk about how community can help prevent burnout. Burnout isn't caused by too much love. It's caused by isolation. That's why you need a community. That's why I said, find out what resources are around you. My dad and I are starting a caretaking support group together next week to be in community with people that live around us who are going through the same thing, who are at different places in the journey, who can offer us advice, who can offer space to just listen. And I'm really excited about it. It's probably something we should have done a year or two ago, if I'm being completely honest. But I have found community virtually on social media through Zoom calls. There's a lot available. Community can help distribute the pressure that you're feeling. There is absolutely no one who is designed to carry the load of caretaking alone. Nearly 70% of caretakers report burnout symptoms within the first year. Those with defined support systems report greater long-term caregiving capacity and fewer health complications. I absolutely believe this. I did an episode a few months back about my health journey last fall, and a year and a half, almost 2 years, I would say, into caretaking. Well, a year and a half in, I had really started to lose energy. I wasn't sleeping good. I had no motivation to do anything but manage my business and take care of my parents. And I honestly didn't have all the energy I needed for that either, but I was pushing through. And it was fall of 2024 that I realized something had to change, or I was going to have nothing to pour into anybody else. I hadn't just put myself on the back burner. Like, I was nowhere near the stove. My weight had increased significantly. My energy was gone. I was in burnout. And I was in the mode of, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And I finally woke up one day and realized something has to change. And I put a plan in place. I asked for help for people that could help me on my health journey to get me back to a place where I had more energy. I was taking care of myself so I wouldn't have my own health concerns on top of my parents to worry about. All of the things. And so it's important to focus on yourself. It's important to find those resources. I reached out to a friend that I know is a nutrition coach. I went to a doctor. I got my blood work done. I figured out where I was at, what my body was struggling with and what it needed. I started exercising, doing the things like that I needed to do. Community is not going to eliminate the hard days, but it's going to help make them more survivable. It's so important to have resources. And I touched in the beginning a little bit on the financial side. It's so important to financially prepare for these situations. You may already be in it, and that might not be an option for the person you're caring for, but it's an option for you, and it's important. It's going to help create clarity and reduce conflict in the future. To know what you have set up, to know what you need to be, or what you have prepared for, because you're not going to be able to prepare for something you don't know the details about, that could show up or could not show up. But planning can actually help preserve relationships. If you have a spouse, a partner, children, just family members in general, planning together what the future could look like for your loved one, it's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer. We did it. And I am so grateful. And I talk to people all the time who haven't. And so, like I said, if you need a resource, please reach out. I'd love to help you with that if I'm able, or connect you with somebody who can. The overall message in this week's episode is family, both given and chosen, isn't just who celebrates you. It's who steadies you when life shakes everything loose. When the sky is falling, when the walls are caving in, when you don't know how you can get through one more day, that family, both given and chosen, can be the exact difference that you need. So please build your circle now. Assign roles to the people involved and ask for help before you need it. Again, something I'm working on. My hot take for this week is that if you think you're a burden for needing help, you've misunderstood love. Love shows up no matter what. Don't worry about being a burden. Like I said, that's one of the benefits of the conversation, knowing who has which roles that you can lean on. But at the end of the day, feeling like a burden because you need help takes away somebody else's blessing of being able to serve you and show you love. And isn't that what we're all here to do? I want to thank you guys for being here this week again on another episode. There are 3 more episodes to come in this series. And again, in 2026, I'm going to be talking a lot more about caretaking, about my journey, and bringing other people to the show that can talk about it as well. So if today's episode lit something in you, if you know a caretaker, if you are a caretaker, if you're in a caretaker community, please share it. My hope is to give other people hope and make them realize they're not alone and that they can keep doing this. And so with your help of sharing this episode, I can accomplish that. As always, message me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Tell me your biggest takeaway from today's episode, and let's keep building wealth, wisdom, and wins together. And until next week, thank you all for listening. Protect your peace, protect your people, and protect your wealth.